G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life. And after the success of my $1,000 boat video, I've bought another watercraft to restore for your viewing entertainment. The mighty Grey Beaver has been a heap of fun. My mates and I have all had a go on the biscuit. We've explored all of the islands around Wellington, we've raced it across the harbour and even been fishing. However, it does have its downsides. Yes, it's handy to be able to fit 5 people inside and it's surprisingly fast, but it takes up an enormous amount of room on our lawn and is such a pain to tow because even though the boat is proving to be reliable, the 50-year-old trailer seems to fall apart just about every single time I take it out, which is rather frustrating. I thought about buying a smaller boat, however, boats with enough power to pull a biscuit don't really come much smaller than a 14-foot fleet line like this. You can get inflatable rafts and tin dinghies suitable for fishing on a lake, but I haven't seen many with power beyond single digits, which couldn't even pull the skin off a rice pudding. After owning a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder 2-stroke outboard with 85 horsepower that can crack nearly 70 k's an hour on flat water with a steering wheel and a proper throttle quadrant and a key like a car, well, switching over to what is basically an upside-down aluminium shed with a weed whacker engine on the back with a recoil start and tiller steering, it just seems like a bit of a downgrade. What I need is something small and easy to tow, but with plenty of power to pull a biscuit and reach some acceptably fun speeds. And this, I think, is perfect. It's a 2001 Kawasaki STX 1100 Di. Like my boat, it features a similarly sized 1.1 litre 2-stroke inline 3. However, thanks to 20 years of engine development between the two, it makes 130 horsepower rather than just 85. I chose this one specifically because most really cheap jet skis are single-seaters, and they have 500 to 700cc parallel twin engines. This one, however, had seating for 3 and the same number of cylinders, so it would be more powerful and more versatile than any other cheap jet ski for sale at the time. However, there's a catch. A few years ago, the previous owner said that he ran it out of fuel on Lake Taupo and it's just sort of never run the same since. It used to be able to crack over 90 kilometers an hour, which must have been absolutely blistering on water, whereas now it can barely do 50. The good news was, though, that the trailer was fully legal, unlike my boat's trailer, so I don't have to do anything to that, and the body of the jet ski is in pretty decent shape, so it's really just the engine that needs work. So after picking it up from Palmerston North, me and Jack took it out for a shakedown run to see what was going wrong with it. After loading it and the Grey Beaver into the water, we hit the waves and very quickly realised the first issue was the fuel gauge was broken. It said it had half a tank, but after just 5 minutes, it ran out of fuel again. So we towed it in, and a few days later, with a full tank this time, we tried again. If I give it a bit of beans. Definitely hesitating there. It would always start first pop and had no issues poodling around, but as soon as you got past 50% throttle, it would surge and hesitate, which to me felt like a fueling issue. Yeah, that's full throttle. Strangely though, after 15 minutes that began to improve, and then you could do whatever you wanted on the throttle and it would respond happily, but it just felt slow. While testing it, some other people showed up with a 2017 Sea-Doo, and in theory they also make around 130 horsepower from a 1.6 litre 4-stroke inline 3, but he was significantly faster than mine, cracking nearly 100 k's an hour while I barely got to 60. If this was a normal jet ski, the obvious thing to do would be to maybe replace the spark plugs and clean the carburetors. However, this is not a normal jet ski because it is fuel injected. On that front, it is arguably a simpler design because the air and oil goes through 3 separate throttle bodies and oil injectors into the crankcase of the engine, and the fuel goes in the top through 3 separate fuel injectors. However, of course, after buying it, I came to learn that Ficht, the manufacturer of the injectors and ECU, went out of business decades ago, and the whole system is just needlessly complicated. Rather than having coil-on plug like a car or distributor, it's got a water-cooled, computer-controlled ignition system which likes to go bang. The injectors are coded to the ECU, so if one goes, you've got to replace all 3 and the ECU. It's got like 10 different sensors, but no O2 sensor in the exhaust, so it really has no way of knowing if the air-fuel ratio is even correct. All it seems to do is just run on a base map, firing a pre-programmed amount of fuel based purely on the throttle position sensor input, maybe making slight adjustments based on the air temperature sensor. How this is any more fuel efficient or better for the environment, I have absolutely no idea, and it certainly isn't more reliable. But of course, as with all my impulse purchases, I found this out after picking it up. So now I'm stuck with a cheap and running but not particularly fast or fun jet ski, of which few parts are still made for it. Great! I've come to the conclusion that the hesitating issue seems to have resolved itself. The other problem I had was weirdly the revs would seem to stick after revving it up. This turned out to be an improperly aligned throttle position sensor, which I fixed fairly easily. The third issue though, being the lack of power, unfortunately is going to require a full engine rebuild. As we discovered, cylinder 3 has lost compression. Given it's done over 200 hours, I guess that's not entirely unexpected. So it's time for me to pull an engine for the very first time on Kiwi Car Life. Fortunately, even though this is the first engine out job I've ever attempted, it was by far the easiest. Two strokes are very simple, with no valve train or sump, making them rather compact. So after removing the ignition leads and fuel lines, throttle bodies and exhaust, the block came right out, leaving the 3 cylinders behind. Well, we've definitely figured out what's wrong. So cylinder 1 and 2, a little bit black, but they're perfectly fine. And then cylinder 3, oh dear. There was a massive chunk taken out of the cylinder over here. The piston ring has actually split. There's a whole lot of scoring over here. But the interesting thing is, it's actually already been re-sleeved. Look, that one's factory, and then this one is different. So it's going to be a big job. And so I sent the block away to an engine shop to be fully re-sleeved again and ordered some new pistons from TradeMe. A few weeks later, with the freshly rebuilt block and pistons ready to go, I set to work reinstalling everything. I had a bit of trouble getting all of the pistons back into the cylinders as the tolerances were very tight, but eventually, with everything back together, it was time for the first start. Well, here we are, the maiden voyage of what is hopefully my now fully powered Kawasaki STX 1100 Di. Oh, she makes a good noise. Now, unfortunately, the repairs on this have not been quite so easy. We actually took it out the other day and it had no power at all, because as it happened by pure coincidence, 2 of the spark plugs completely died. So I've now put 3 new spark plugs in it. I still can't get it to idle low enough. It's idling at 2000 RPM. And I've modified the throttle position sensor to try and get it to idle lower. Still can't get it to do it, but it is at least running somewhat. Alright, let's see what the beast can do, eh? On the power. 60, 70. Oh, it's so fast! And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. I know this is not a normal car video that I tend to produce here on Kiwi Car Life, but the jet ski is complete. And hopefully we'll be able to have a decent bit of fun with this thing, assuming we get some more days like this. So thanks for watching, greatly appreciate it, and we'll be back to cars next week. See you then.